Yo, it's a TV Cat. Today we take a look at feds are protecting woke developers from quote-unquote extremist gamers by Rev Says Desu. Easy to overrate what's going on here. If there's money going around, of course it will find a way into this and that and these and those things, even though it doesn't really do all that much. So let's see.
Hey, what's up guys, Rev here. So this ongoing Gamergate situation continues to get even crazier because today we have some bizarre updates to go over. Now what began as a simple Steam curation group has evolved into something much bigger. Now we've seen groups like the Anti-Defamation League come out and take advantage of this situation to claim that there is an extremism threat among gamers. In fact, it's not just journalists and other members of the gaming industry trying to villainize gamers.
See, this is what happens when you're too trusting without having a foundation for it. Institutions go from purpose-focused to focusing on reproducing themselves through their hiring choices. Because, after all, they stayed around, so of course. And so even the best institutions that people have a lot of trust for, they can take a gradual turn for the worse, and there's still plenty good in all kinds of institutions. Now for Kotaku, I don't know, man. I don't know. But anyway, I'm just saying, this is the dynamics. And so you will get people fight tooth and nail over the interpretation of, okay, so what is going on with this institution? Is it perfect? No, but should we talk about it? Also no. Like, anyway. I'm just sitting here, being a cat on the internet, thinking most people actually have very little to do with this, regardless of what language they use and so on.
It turns out, as people dig more...
And yeah, there are real things going on, yes. I mean, there's all this money going around in all kinds of ways, so of course it would find a way to the people who assert that there's something important going on, one way or another.
Into companies like Sweet Baby Inc., they're discovering...
May or may not need a bit more accountability.
Some of the people they are affiliated with, including some federally funded organizations and initiatives that are trying to research and protect against extremism among gamers. I wish I was joking, but this rabbit hole goes very deep. Now we're going to return to an effort named Take This.
If a reputable source that you trust says it, and then maybe you are part of something like that, and then things can go off the wheels pretty quickly. And so we have an interesting case study here. Story is still developing, but let's see what he's going to say about this group here.
Talked about them in our previous video involving Gamergate. This is a non-profit that claims that they are trying to decrease stigma and increase support for mental health in games. However, people got much more concerned when they saw the director make a direct statement about Gamergate 2 and some of the dangers that lie among gamers and the threats they pose to members of the industry. And things would get even weirder when people went to their website and discovered that they are fully...
It's also maybe true, you know, like, this is the thing. You always get well-intended people go to reasonable-seeming causes, and by and large, there's always something to it. Now, as for the results of the exercise, that is a different question.
Funded by a grant from the Department of Homeland Security. Yes, there are American tax dollars being used in the name of Homeland Security to investigate gamers.
Although the story is wild, but not unexpected.
But that's just the tip of the iceberg here.
Mainly because the money is already earmarked for being spent some way, right? It's just looking for a cause.
The Extremism and Gaming Research Network, which is a website here you can see that says they're working together to uncover how malign actors exploit gaming to build resilience in gaming communities to online harms and to discover new ways to use gaming for good. And in their mandate, you can see that they're doing this to prevent extremism among gamers with a collaboration among private sector actors as well as policymakers.
This
is a very deep-seated effort here to combat this supposed extremism threat in the gaming sphere.
Positive downstream
as people like Kabrutus, the leader and creator of the Steam group Sweet Baby Inc. Detected, they have made this statement saying, "Something's brewing. They are scrubbing numerous pages correlated to the government involvement. If possible, please share this
And
message.
of course they
a
would
bunch
scrub
of content
pages
creators
because,
covering the
man, this
situation
is an
are
embarrassment.
tagged.
So you really
what
thought
he's referring
there's
to
something going on
is
here?
this
Hello?
tab
Is this how you
on
want to
the
see government money be
EGRN
spent?
website. This is an archived version of their website where if you clicked on members, the members tab, you would see what being a member is all about, and you would also see a detailed breakdown.
I'm just saying, the money is looking for a cause, not the other way around.
Of all of the individual members that are
At least mostly.
part of this initiative, including many professors, researchers, and people with backgrounds in counterterrorism.
And, like,
Now, if
these
you
are
go
all
to
well-intended
their
people, probably,
institutional
right?
members
They
list,
probably believe
you can see
themselves
a
they're doing
whole
something
host of
good.
organizations, including universities, counterterrorism organizations.
Okay, so what is it with the gamers now? Now we gotta protect Sweet Baby Inc., one of the most embarrassing, not just borderline racist infused companies around. It's like, come on, just a little too precious. And so of course they go scrub the paper trail, because this is, I mean, imagine what else they're onto if this is something that which there's money for. Well, I don't even know what else they could be spending money on. But again, not to take away from the goodness that is always coming with any institution and whatnot. Again, but it does tend to deteriorate over time without accountability in place.
National organizations, and curiously, you'll see Take This listed under that tab. Well, if you go to visit that website now and you go to the members tab, you get an error 404 message. This website in their members tab has been untouched for nearly 3 years that this initiative has been listed on this website, but suddenly over the past couple of days, all of those names of the people involved have been wiped. Now, luckily we have the archive versions, but that is a pretty alarming thing. Now you're probably asking, why did that happen? Well, it has to do with this individual right here, an artist named Savvy, who had this quote of
let's see, what is the trigger, so to speak, for this chain of events?
Kabrutus's tweet saying, "It would appear I have rattled the cage and they did not like my breakdown of their own membership list. Curious, if they're so proud of their work, why delete it?" Which leads us into a crazy rabbit hole. So when we're talking about the recent controversies involving Gamergate, we have focused a lot on journalists and some of the unethical and really just incompetent behaviors they have been exhibiting in their coverage of this situation. But when we look at the work of Savvy here, what she has done is way, way beyond anything these games journalists are capable of, or at least have proved to be capable of, because she has done some deep research on all these organizations involved in...
Let's put it that way. She did put in the work to do the journalism. You know what I mean? And of course, everyone can call themselves a journalist, and it's kind of true, but anyway, it does seem like this person put in quite a bit of work. Yeah, I did pre-watch, so spoiler alert, meow.
This initiative, and it helps us kind of frame and understand who's really involved here. So we have to look at a couple of main players, beginning with Logically. This is one of the groups involved with this initiative. Logically, curiously enough, is actually focused on protecting the U.S. election process, which is odd for this whole situation.
And it goes pretty deep into the details of this interwoven web of companies and so on. But I would point to, okay, the money is looking for a cause. So all this detail, it is important too, yes, but don't get lost in the sauce. And yeah, sometimes people will come with all kinds of weird takes as the downstream from this stuff. But if you got some people skills, I think you will be fine. I think you'll manage.
But that leads us to Middlebury College. Now, why do we talk about this college? Well, they recently announced a research effort that they're doing.
And they probably do lots of good things too. It's just sometimes there's money on the table and they have people who say things that sound like they're relevant, and so they get put in the limelight because the institution wants to reproduce itself.
It's a project that is in collaboration with the director of who else but Take This. Now, if you go to the government website of the U.S. Department of Homeland Security, you can see their publicly available list of grant applications. Now, if you search up Take This, you won't find anything. However, if you scroll down, you'll find a grant application involving the president and fellows of Middlebury College. Now, if you open that up, you will see their entire initiative here, a project title of Disrupting Video Games-Based Radicalization Through Collaborative Cross-Sector Networks. You can see the applicant, Middlebury's Center on Terrorism, Extremism, and Counterterrorism in collaboration with Take This and Logically. And you can see their abstract, we'll read the beginning of it. Over the past decade, video games have increasingly become focal points of social activity and identity creation for adolescents and young adults. Relationships made and fostered within game ecosystems routinely cross over into the real world and are impactful parts of local communities. Correspondingly, extremists have used video games and targeted video game companies or communities for activities ranging from propaganda creation to terrorist mobilization and training. Yes, anytime you start talking about national security threats like that, it's not surprising when you end up with a funds request of $700,000. Now you can go down here, you can see their problem statement, and it definitely aligns with everything that these related organizations have been claiming to go after. It says, countering extremism in games and gaming communities require a unique approach that considers the specific sociological.
So, but first you gotta quantify the problem, and then you can develop an approach, right? This is missing a couple of steps here, is what it seems. And again, it's because there's already money being earmarked for whatever, and these people talk a fair game, and the institution is gonna put them out there so they can pick up the money, and it's like, okay, I mean, what happened to actually solving problems? Meow.
Psychological and cultural aspects of games. This program will improve knowledge and empower game developer and policymakers, building resilience to games-based radicalization by addressing these various objectives.
And that's a lot of stuff getting promised there, without really quantifying the problem.
This is definitely a very interesting portion of this video. We have Savvy here, who put together a 3.5-minute video that we are going to watch. This is quite literally looking like that Charlie Schizo board meme from Always Sunny, where in this case, it's not just a schizo board. It is based on real organizations, all of which are involved in this movement. It is a very bizarre situation, and normally I don't play like longer videos like this, but I think it's very important to understand just how deep this all goes. And as always, there will be a link to this video and the related tweet in the description.
I know my threads are dry, so it's video and visual aid time. All information can be found on my X page through a series of 3 threads at the time of making this. All sources are linked, and it is based off of publicly available information. This all started because a Sweet Baby Inc. employee attempted a harassment campaign against a Brazilian man who goes by Cabrutus, who made a curation list on Steam with publicly available information documenting the games that SBI has worked on. Alyssa wrote an article for Kotaku defending SBI and omitting information about how it started, claiming it was a harassment campaign against SBI. Dr. Cowart wrote a blog post through Take This.org linking the Kotaku article. On the Take This.org website, they occasionally state they are funded by DHS. Take This.org has a partnership with Middlebury College and Logically AI, a data scraping company who wants to redefine the fact-checking business. They are a British-born company who use AI to monitor election misinformation and had a hand in the 2020 USA election. As of 2 years ago, they are partnered with Facebook as a fact-checker. They are also India's #1 fact-checker according to Wiki. These 3 entities received $669,000 from a DHS grant for a 2-year research project to monitor extremism and terrorist recruitment through gaming communities, but Take This.org is not directly funded through DHS itself. Dr. Cowart is also part of the Extremism and Gaming Research Network, or EGRN for short. They, together with the Royal United Services Institute, received $317,000 Canadian from the Minister of Public Safety of Canada. Several of the EGRN individuals currently work for RUSI and have since 2021. Through EGRN and its many members, there are current connections to policy advisory around the world and extremist research through the lens of gender studies. The co-founder says he's got current ties to the UN. Another member has spoken to the Affairs Select Committee and Intelligence and Security Committee of Parliament. Another has spoken to the White House, and several of them to DHS and more. And the EGRN's first look into extremism and political movements in gaming communities was through Brazil. Ties to their government exist and may be ongoing. EGRN has individuals who currently work and who are employed with GIFCT, which is the Global Internet Forum to Counter Terrorism, which was started by Facebook, YouTube.
All the people involved can be like, oh, we're doing something. Yes, we're doing something. He's like, okay, sure. Are you furthering the economic development of your country? That's what I wonder about. But I mean, if you're gonna be like, no, development gotta take a back seat because there's serious problems in the world and we're serious people who take serious care of the problems. I mean, they can say that. Maybe they believe it too, right? It's just so darn precious one way or another.
Microsoft and Twitter back in 2017. There are individuals tied to ISD, which is the Institute of Strategic Dialogue in Britain, where they state there is urgent need to build community trust and political consensus around extremism.
There's all kinds of urgent needs, but I'm just thinking, as long as you insist on a good economy, and economic prosperity for yourself and the people you care about, I mean, this complex scheme being laid out here, and yeah, it's probably a thing, but so when you get down to it, what does it even amount to? These people are spinning in a circle.
Pre-existing ties exist through the EGRN to the World Bank, Facebook, various counterterrorism organizations, UNICEF India, and various other organizations with political ties. The ADL has a Belfer Fellow Funding Program, which is a program that advances the ADL's work by supporting groundbreaking research into online hate and harassment and implementing these projects to fight for just, equitable online spaces. In 2021, one of the EGRN members was a receiving member of the fund. The ADL itself on the website states that they will work with them to advance their research into online extremism.
And get the fund.
The ADL has come out recently as well, using the exact same language as these groups, taking interest in extremism through video games. My research has only begun, and every paper I read, I find a new connection to draw to. This is only taking into account a few members of the EGRN, so I am certain there will be more to discover. This is the fastest summary I can come up with for now, so please check out my threads on X if you'd like a detailed breakdown and to see the information yourself. Thank you for your time and have a good day.
So as you can see,
this is some important journalism too. It's just, you can listen to this, understand it's taking place, understand things like this happen broadly. There's going to be money around looking for a way to get spent. There's going to be institutions trying to reproduce themselves before doing the things that they were founded for. It keeps happening. So what can you do? Well, you can just look to get ahead in your own life, make those demands for economic prosperity, and trust people in your life. It's very straightforward.
The rabbit hole on this goes very, very deep. And shortly after this video was put onto Twitter, that was when the members list was taken down and scrubbed clean. Now, how is this all happening? Well, there's always a very vested interest in national security. Whenever there's a situation where a university or a project or initiative can find a way to relate it to national security, that greatly boosts their chance of getting funding. And also not just getting funding, but the scope of what they can do with their funding and their initiative greatly expands when it's in the interest of national security. And in this case, the targets of these initiatives are gamers. And whenever there is a sort of initiative disguised as a national security interest, that gives them so much access to the target of their initiative, and that is gamers. So they are coming after your privacy. They are watching you in this effort to combat extremism, as they claim, in the gaming community. This is a very, very concerning situation. Again, thanks to Savvy for making this video, helping connect everything together, because it appears this rabbit hole goes deep, and
I'm a cat girl on the internet, but this is too cute for me tier. And so, again, back to the start of the video, people trying to cover their tracks, because it's like, if you look at this, it becomes a little too hilarious outright, in a way. Anyway, let's keep going.
Wouldn't be surprised if it keeps going deeper. Now, of course,
interesting case study, what's going on here.
Throughout this process, what have journalists been doing? Well, more journalists have been joining in on the fray to defend Sweet Baby.
I don't want to deny this. You know, censorship may become much more of a problem in the most roundabout ways that this could take place in. Like, there is talk about, like, requiring people to have a name, a real world name online whenever you do something. It's like, okay, doxing is a big deal nowadays, is it not? So, anyway.
And take advantage of this moment to try to prop up members of the industry for their own agenda. In this case, they released an article called "The Return of Gamergate is Smaller and Sadder," where ironically they would feel the need to make an entire article about it. And also, basically every single games journalist came out to support and promote this article. But yeah, Gamergate is smaller and sadder this time, right? Yeah, of course, right?
Smaller and sadder.
Yeah, we're totally buying that. But if you go to this Verge article here, you can see the author, Ash Parrish, or Parrish, whatever her name is. However, curiously, as reported by this user, this game reporter has had direct contact with Kabrutus through Discord. Kabrutus, of course, again, being the creator of the Steam group Sweet Baby Inc. Detected. Now, let's see one of the messages that she has sent. So let me read this, okay? She says this: "I hope those of y'all with an open mind realize that Sweet Baby is not your enemy. I hope you realize that woke is also not your enemy, and that your group's continued crusade against woke makes you look bigoted. I hope you understand that non-sexualized depictions of women, the inclusion of people of color and queer people in the games themselves, making them and writing about them is a net positive for gaming. Something to be celebrated, not memed. I hope more of you, like you've done here, actually talk to people you disagree with. What makes me sad is that this is a pattern of behavior that can really destroy people's lives. You have this..."
And there she has a point, which is, even though she gets all of the details of the situation wrong, yeah, like, why you sweat this stuff? It's like, it doesn't matter. Is it gonna get you ahead economically? No. Is it gonna make your social relations better? No. So there's a point buried in there. It's like, yeah, talk to people, yes. And if they're gonna insist on using certain language, I mean, good for them. It doesn't actually matter. I'm not here to defend a label, because the label is already from the get-go open for everyone. Trust people. They say they be woke or whatever, and it's like, yeah, sure, you can be woke, yeah, everyone's woke, whatever. Just don't be a wrecker. Like, it's not hard. So anyway, again, this Ash person taking all the wrong sides in the argument she seems to appear in, but she does come from a place of some sort of capacity to have a pretty good time in her own life with that attitude, right? So this is, you gotta take that seriously. And by the way, that's okay too. I hope she's gonna have a good time. I just hope she's also gonna stop talking about things she doesn't understand. That would be nice.
Group of like-minded people assembled in common cause. And while I believe you when you say that you're gonna try to clean up your act, there will be those who don't want to clean up their act, and so they'll get pushed into private discords with more like-minded folks who will feel like they have more license or freedom to let their worst impulses fly.
And there she's making the most extreme case about being in a cult or something.
And they'll get even more on the fringe. The things they talk about will get worse and worse until the alienation is complete.
And is this not kind of the rabbit hole she's delving into as she writes this comment? Curious. Very, very curious.
They've lost friends, families, jobs, and health because nobody wants to be around them for this kind of behavior.
Maybe she's afraid that if she continues on the path she's on, if she keeps getting worked up too much about the stuff, she herself is gonna sacrifice a lot of things. And this may in fact be what happens if she dwells too much on this line of thinking. So in a weird way, it's a very much projection what's going on here.
Happened with Gamergate and QAnon, and it'll happen again. I hope you'll stop digging through Kim Belair, the CEO of Sweet Baby Inc., and Alyssa, the Kotaku author, social media posting pictures of them and photoshopping images of them. Yes, this is the author of an article saying Gamergate has returned, and it's even more small and pathetic. And yet, they are making the claims that this Steam group is going to be responsible for basically radicalizing a bunch of gamers into being these terrible, awful threats of people.
It's very much implied, and probably in her other writing even more so. And maybe she can turn around, because this is missing a big piece of the puzzle, which is the scope, the scale of the problem.
Yeah, so do you think that they're being honest with their article when they say things like this, and this is their view of the situation and how they view the subjects of what they're talking about.
Honestly, I think they're honest.
Insane. This whole situation has evolved
Honest,
into something very, very bizarre, and
that
I
is
don't
also
know
true.
how much.
Very, very bizarre. I do wonder where this is gonna go. And again, with the people covering their tracks, I feel like ultimately this is just a bit of an embarrassment if you look at just how many holes the story has and so on. So anyway, honestly, I wish all the people involved the best of luck. Do help out people that you see they struggle with records getting in there. It may happen here and there, but it's not a reason to start universally distrusting people. No, as long as you manage reasonably what you tell people, right? I mean,
much deeper this can all go, but I've stood corrected multiple times at this point. When I think things couldn't get crazier, they always tend to. So again, if there's more developments involving this ongoing Gamergate situation, you know you're going to hear it from me. But that's going to do it for today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed. As always, share all of your thoughts about today's topics in the comment section down below, and I'll see you guys next time.
Yeah, do comment below. I will link the video in the description. Do leave a like over there. Do leave a like over here. Rate, comment, subscribe. I hope you have a great day, and don't sweat the details, but you do want to build some capacity. You know, I'm generally kind of optimistic about this as long as none of the heavy guns come out in terms of censorship. Anyway, stay safe out there. Have a good one. Meow.